Elden Ring is a game that is so easy that it just makes me mad and I gotta rip and tear everything in the lands between apart. That's right, today we're taking on the Rip and Tear Challenge. So what exactly is this challenge? Well, it's the result of someone who listened to way too much of the Doom Eternal soundtrack, but only wants to play Elden Ring. Essentially, any weapon you can think of that is rippy and teary would fit. Which, in my case, basically meant fists only and a lot of this. The rules are pretty simple. Kill all bosses in... wait, hold on. All bosses? 157! Okay, never mind. The goal is to finish the game and get all of the great runes. Basically, we're gonna rip apart all the demigods. So first I make my character. Yep, that's definitely Doom Guy. 100% do not need to look at a reference image at all. Okay, we're off. First order of business is to find a weapon. Sure, the club is a great bonker, but it's not exactly the kind of weapon I picture when I think of ripping my enemies apart. So let's head over to the Dragonburnt Ruins, open a chest, take a nice whiff of whatever this mimic is smoking, and oh, look at that, we woke up in a cave. Just like in college. Now we just gotta make our way out and then... Okay, we make our way out of the cave and into literal hell, for you see, there's a vendor here that sells the perfect weapon for us. The Spiked Cestus. Yeah, Spiked Knuckles feels right for Doom Guy. The problem is, we're broke. So what's a naked demon killing man to do? Sure, I could just brutally punch things with my fist, that is pretty Doom Guy, but conveniently for us, there's an oversized bowling ball worth about 1900 runes that just wants to help. A couple runs of this later and we have enough to buy our weapon. But this is only half the build. Doom Guy's fury knows no bounds and we just need to explode with all our anger. So what do? That's right. Punch the mother of all dragons about 1,000 times until it bleeds to death, netting us a cool 74k runes. We up our weapon a bit, grab a finger seal, and then level, mostly strength, but we put a few into faith and arcane for later. Then it's off to the Cathedral of the Dragon where we pick up Dragonclaw and Grael's Roar. I can't think of anything more doomed than literally screaming at my enemies to hurt them. Unfortunately, we can't use those yet, so instead I go around back of Stormveil Castle and make my way into Liurnia of the Lakes. The only reason to come here so early is to make my fists even more strong, so we head north until we get to the Raya Lucaria Crystal Tunnel. The boss of this cave, the Crystallian, drops the Smithing Stone Miner's Bell bearing 1, which will allow us to buy Smithing Stones 1 and 2 from the maidens in the Round Table Hold. Fortunately, this boss is not immune to blunt force trauma, and our naked demon killing man is victorious. At this point, we warp back, learn the JoJo pose, make our fists a +5, and now we're ready. So let me ask you, who would win in a fight? A literal dragon, or an angry naked man? If you guess the dragon, well, you're probably a sane person, but you're also wrong. A few uppercuts to the jaw later, and we stand victorious over Flying Dragon Agil. Next, it's time to take on a real demon, Margit the Fell Omen. He thinks he can beat me? I will put his foolish ambitions to rest. We dance back and forth, trading blows, but in the end, I stand victorious. I quickly go put the Warcry Ash on my Cestus, as it seems fitting, but also it'll change our scaling to B in strength, meaning I have more, well, strength behind my punches. Next on the chopping block, Godric the Grafted. Ha! This pathetic excuse for a demigod really thinks he can command me to kneel? We put him in his place like it's nothing. The Lord of all that's golden? More like the Lord of... being dead. Get it? Because he's dead? We head over to the Divine Tower so we can secure Godric's Great Rune, which will be extremely helpful later. Then, we head back to the creepy finger lady and use his remembrance to get the Grafted Dragon weapon, which is literally the head of a dragon you use as a fist. If that's not Doom, I don't know what is. Next, we make our way back to the lakes to grab the key guarded by magical dragon not Smaug. You know what? I don't like the way you looked at me. That's another dragon down. We head over to the Academy of Raya Lucaria to show these Enjoyers the power of a strength main. Doom Guy feels conflicted about punching a good pupper like the Red Wolf of Radagon. Doom Guy is over his conflicted feelings and is ready to pummel the Red Wolf of Radagon. This fight did highlight a problem, namely that I'm taking way more damage than is necessary, probably because I'm naked. So after asserting dominance, we head back and grab the Knight's armor set for extra protection. I don't really know what happened here, but damn if it isn't funny to me. Ah, the library, a great place for learning. But today it is a place of pain. So actually, it's just a normal library then. Doomslayer punched a hole in Mars, but we are here to punch a hole in the moon. Wait, she is the moon. Maybe I don't want to make this joke. Whatever, we punch the straight A glowing nerds and then show her the power of the fist. She hits us a few times with her stick, but joke's on her, we're into that. What we aren't into is the dragon she tried to barbecue us with, but after a few more punches she goes down. Just kidding, I could never betray Princess Ronnie by killing Renala, besides, we need her later. At this point, we finally level up Faith enough so we can start smacking our enemies around with Dragon Claws. Yeah, that's satisfying. We also equip the Grafted Dragon Fist. It's cool, but I'll be honest, we didn't use it pretty much at all in this run. Whatever, we're at Fort Feroth to pick up the right half of the Dectus Medallion and Radagon Sword Seal. Then we make our way over to Fort Height to get another half of the medallion. Yep, still satisfying. This is the point where I decided the Grafted Dragon wasn't worth it. Anyway, while we're out collecting medallions, we might as well get the secret one in the village of the Albinaurics. I definitely said that name right. Now that we're all loaded up on bling, we head on over to the Grand Lift and take it up to the Altus Plateau. First order of business is to go to the sealed tunnel to pick up the Smithing Stone Miner's Bell Bearing 2. But we don't have any souls to buy anything. So we head to Caelid to punch a decaying dragon in the face. That's not a lot of damage. On the upside, this dragon is pretty weak to bleed. I guess that's not really surprising as he has about 8,000 open wounds on him, but whatever. A few solid smacks to the jaw and he goes down, rewarding us with 38,000 runes. That's not as much as I had hoped, but it'll do for now. Back at Round Table Hold, we make our Cestus a plus 11, then it's off to fight the Demon Lorax on a horse. You know, at this point I'm starting to notice our damage really isn't that high. But with a lucky bleed, he goes down, so it's fine. Man, this place is always so beautiful. Too bad I'm going to skip the majority of it. A few rooftop jumps and a trip through the sewer later, we are leaping up the wing of a dragon I wish we could have fought. Then before you know it, we stand before Godfrey, the first Elden Lord. Ghost. I guess he was afraid of our might, so he just had to astral project himself here? It doesn't matter. Poor predictable Godfrey. We expertly dodge his attacks and hit him only when we know it's safe. That was just a warm-up. And that one. And that one. Eventually, we punch the ghost of Godfrey to death, then it's up to Not Guinevere's bedchamber. Sorry, no amazing chest here. Now it's time for Margit 2.0, and this is where I hit my first wall. You see, one of the biggest downfalls of fist weapons as a whole is the extremely short range. Combined with how agile Morgott is, and it's like trying to punch a bird while you're underwater, and it only gets worse from here. It took me more tries than I care to admit to beat him, but eventually he goes down and that's another great rune secured. Next, we head over to the Forbidden Lands, where we attempt to eat the Knight of Blood. That doesn't go so well, but where teeth don't work, fists do. Oh god, I hope that doesn't get taken out of context. We also beat up an ice dragon just for runes, making us just shy of our level goal. The whole reason we killed the Whip Boy was so we could be granted audience with the Lord of Volcano Manor, Rykard, Lord of Blasphemy. At first, I wasn't sure how I was going to do this fight. I can't get close to punch him as he's surrounded by lava, but then I thought if Doomguy was given a weapon that could do this, you better believe he's going to use it. The problem is, well, this. This attack right here. I tried rolling through it, I tried jumping over it, and it seems to stretch all the way to the edge of the arena, so I couldn't outrun it, so what do? Well, it is blockable, but if I do that, I just take a massive hit to my health anyway. Since our FP was so low, we needed most of our S's to be blue, so blocking the attack isn't really the desirable answer either. Or is it? Well, not with a spear, no. But what about with an actual shield? The Dragon Claw Great Shield, to be exact. It has 100 in physical damage reduction, and if we two-hand it, we actually meet the requirements, so let's give it a shot. Success! Well, sort of. I mean, it still hurt. I'm gonna guess that's because the attack does more than just physical damage, but it did marginally less than when blocking with a spear. So that's the game plan. Hit the boss and wait for the attack behind the shield. Fortunately, his phase 2 doesn't have any difficult to dodge attacks. Well, except for whatever this is. It doesn't really matter. In the end, our strategy works, and that is another great rune down. We use the runes we got from the boss to level up our faith to 28 so we can finally scream at things. It takes our whole mana bar, but that's fine. I'm sure it'll be useful. To celebrate our victory, I think it's time to party. That's right, we're headed for the Radahn Festival, baby! Ah, Radahn. What did From do to you? Even if he was nerfed into the ground, he still deserves a warrior's death for being such a Chad, so myself and the other not main characters team up in a raid party of the century. The battle was well fought. Only 2 more great runes to go and we will carry Radahn in our hearts to it, but for now, we don his armor and take the fight to the fire giant. That's not a lot of damage. Like at all. Also, because of our short range, it's kind of hard to consistently hit his weak point. Nevertheless, we persevere, and a few attempts later, he falls before our mighty fist. We touch hands and burn the tree, taking us to Farum Azula, signaling the beginning of the end. You see, this is where things get really difficult. And I mean really difficult. The first boss fight here is the Godskin duo. These 2 enemies independently are tough enough, but together, forget about it, especially if you're trying to do no spirits like I am. My first thought was to level up my Cestus more, as they're only plus 18, and we are pretty much in the endgame at this point, but the 4th bell bearing is dropped by a boss. Can you guess what boss it is? Yeah, that's right, these 2 a-holes. I could have run around areas looking for smithing stones, but you need 8 bajillion per upgrade, and I just didn't have time for that. I tried. I really did. I sank many attempts into this boss, but in the end, I need to come back later for them. There's still 2 other hidden great runes I need to collect after all, so for now, Godskin duo, you're put on hold. After vowing to return, I set out for Castle Sol, a small keep in the northernmost part of the mountaintops of the Giants. It is here I faced another difficult foe, Commander Nail and his 2 idiots, and again I was met with a wall. This is where I realized I just wasn't strong enough. I'm sure you've all noticed, but my stats have not been very focused. Of course I put some into strength and dexterity for my Cestus, and vigor is also important in this game. However, I have also been putting a few into faith and arcane in order to use my dragon abilities. As a result, my damage output is, well, kinda poo-poo, at least for how far we are into the game. Sure, these spiked Cestuses do have a bleed buildup, but a lot of the late game bosses are extremely aggressive and agile, making it difficult to consistently build up. Combine that with overall low damage and vigor, and most fights just become a war of attrition, one that we struggle to win. And so it is here I made a decision, to shed my powerful roars in favor of raw fisticuffs. In other words, we respec into strength. It wasn't a massive boost, but it was enough to push us over the edge and finally topple the commander, securing the other half of the secret medallion. We make our way to Ordina Liturgical Town, definitely still pronouncing that one right, and there isn't much to say, I still hate this place. After lighting the 4 beacons, we are granted access to Miquella's Haligtree. Parkouring our way down, we meet up with Loretta. I was worried about this boss, but apparently for no reason, because they too fall before the might that is Doomguy. But this is nothing. This isn't even a warm-up for what is to come next. I descend further until finally we arrive. Yeah, when From puts a boss in a flower field, you know shit's about to get real. Malenia, Blade of Miquella. Widely considered to be the hardest boss in the whole game, and for good reason. She has a large health pool, lightning fast attacks, lifesteal, and not 1, not 2, but 3 specials that will absolutely kill you if you aren't ready for them. And to top it all off, a phase 2 where she adds several more attacks, becomes more aggressive, and adds Scarlet Rot. This is not an easy fight, no matter how you look at it. Her only weakness is that she has extremely low poise, meaning most attacks can stagger her, even from the Cestus. I gave her a couple of attempts, but it was obvious I just wasn't ready. The problem is that there isn't much else I can do. She's an optional Great Rune I need, and Godskin Duo are still blocking our way to higher upgrades. I could just kill several dozen other bosses to gain some levels, but I had one other trick up my sleeve. So, we head over to Caelid, And shrouded in the dark of night, there he stands, the Knight's Cavalry. Well, one of them anyway. This one in particular drops a very useful Ash of War, the Bloodhound Step. So Bloodhound Step is basically a longer roll with more iframes. It's going to be extremely useful for dodging Malenia's Uber attacks, but I decided before going back to her, I wanted to become stronger. So it's time for the Godskin Duo rematch. This fight nearly broke me. These bosses do not seem to mesh well together. No. They don't mesh well together at all. They don't feel like they're synergizing. They're just two bosses that got shoved into the same room. The best strategy I could come up with was to beat up the skinny one and never even touch the other one. At about half health, they'll enter an empowered state, and I found the Godskin Apostles version much easier to deal with, especially after I realized you could Bloodhound Step through this little windmill attack and get a few shots in on his legs. This was definitely a tough fight, especially considering you have to kill them a total of nearly 4 times. Keeping them separated and playing patiently was the only key to victory, and eventually they go down and we have access to the final bell bearing. So of course we immediately go level up our fist as high as we can, in this case it's to 24, and then we go take on the Beast Clergyman. Yep, that went about as expected. The Death Doggo Man feels sporadic, but in the end I was able to determine that there were 2 attacks I could consistently get damage in without being punished, and using that window, Doomguy perseveres and the Beast Clergyman transforms into the cooler Beast Clergyman that Samuel Hayden told you not to worry about. I actually find Phase 2 way more consistent than Phase 1, but the problem is, Meliketh never sets still. Oh, and his whole, removes a massive chunk of your maximum HP thing, it's fine, it just means we have to not get hit. Easier said than done. After a handful of attempts, we download his attacks and Meliketh the Black Blade goes down. Next we make a quick run through the desert where we meet up with Sir Gideon Ofnir, the All-Knowing. He must be a bit mad because I never talked to him, but joke's on him, I still won't talk to him. It's pretty cool that he has all these powerful spells though, but I've learned the strongest magic of all. The spell is called Punch to the Face, and it wrecks him. Man, he lost and he's still trash talking. Now this is a fight. Just 2 buff dudes beating the crap out of each other. I mean, Godfrey is a cheater and uses an axe, but that's alright. After a few hits, he realizes the error of his ways, sheds his cheating armor, and faces me like a real warrior. Horolo, you've earned my respect. Real talk though, this might be my favorite fight in the whole game. Everything about it is fair. His attacks aren't so fast they aren't reactable, none of them are one-shotty except for maybe the Giant Earthquake, but if you get caught in that, you really have no one to blame but yourself. Anyway, the end of our journey is just up those steps, but it's not over, is it? You all came here to see me go toe-to-toe with Malenia. Okay, it's time. I've toppled every enemy so far, so the only choice I have is to get good. The more I fought Malenia, the more I saw the cracks in her armor. Things like when she finishes a combo, there's a tell on her last attack. It's incredibly subtle, but the animation takes longer. That's when you can get a shot in. I got it to the point where I could practically no-hit her in Phase 1, like I had unlocked Ultra Instinct. That being said, the actual strategy to fighting her is not that complicated. It's jumping strong attack. That's it. You think I'm kidding? She whiffs a kick, jumping strong attack. She crashes her blade down hard, jumping strong attack. She lunges, you guessed it, jumping strong attack. While I am making jokes, this is bar none the hardest fight in the game, so any warriors out there who topple her, I commend you. After a couple hours of attempts, Doomguy ascends, and Malenia, the goddess of rot, is no more. That leaves one great rune. Mog, Lord of Blood, I'm coming for you. Honestly, I think the Lord of Blood is a pretty fitting boss fight for Doomguy to take on near the end of his journey, because he's, well, the Lord of Blood. He's the most demon-looking boss there is. Fun fact, did you know that there's actually an item to negate this attack? Because I didn't. Definitely recommend getting it if you want to do this fight, because without it, it basically means you have 3 less heals than you normally would. And on at least one occasion did I simply run out of healing before that attack and the fight was just over by default. Mog's got some weird timings on his attacks, but once you get the hang of them, they're not that hard to dodge. The actual problem comes in Phase 2, when all of his attacks suddenly coat the entire arena in fire blood, making it a little bit more frantic than the precision that was Malenia. However, doing my best to just stay right up in his face like the hyper aggro warrior that we are, we win after only a few attempts. We swan dive into the cosmos because I'm the dancing monkey and chat told me to, then head back to the Erd Tree for the final fight. Radagon of the Golden Order. This is another fight that feels, well, mostly fair. Radagon has a mixed amount of attacks that are either really quick or they have a really long startup, but they're all telegraphed well enough to where you can dodge them properly as long as you're paying attention. It's a tough fight, definitely one for the ages. A god and Radagon are just dueling inside a tree, and in the end, quick reflexes and a cool head keep us alive and we are sent into the Elden Beast fight. In true Doom fashion, we are gonna kill us a god. This fight is in stark contrast to the bombastic combat of Radagon. The Elden Beast is a somber and beautiful fight, but like every other boss, it gets absolutely thrashed by my fists, and with that, Doomguy has ripped and tore his way through the lands between, victorious above all foes. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. This run was a lot of fun. I'm a bit sad it kind of devolved into fists only. I really like the idea of yelling at my enemies to hurt them, but the split stats just weren't doing it for me. Still, it felt extremely satisfying to kill Malenia fists only. The Godskin duo I have a newfound hatred for. All in all, this was a blast, and I can't wait to do more theme challenge runs. I have a couple in mind, but I would love to hear your suggestions, so drop those down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video and made it this far, please consider giving a like and subscribing. It really helps me out. I stream these runs every weekend. You can find me over at twitch.tv/doomwolf11. I hope to see you there, but until next time, don't you dare go hollow.